In this video, we're going to talk about how to find the inverse of a function. So consider the function f of x is equal to 2x minus 7. What do we need to do? The first thing that you should do is replace f of x with y. Y and f of x basically are the same thing. Now, in your next step, switch x with y. So x is equal to 2y minus 7. And then after this step, all you need to do is isolate the y variable, solve for it. Get it by itself on one side of the equation. So to do that, let's add 7 to both sides. So we're going to have x plus 7 is equal to 2y. And to isolate y, now we need to divide both sides by 2. So x plus 7 divided by 2 is equal to y. So we can write the final answer as the inverse function is equal to x plus 7 divided by 2. And so that's a simple way in which you could find the inverse of a function. But now let's look at some more examples. Try this one. So let's say that f of x is equal to x cubed plus 8. Go ahead and find the inverse function. So once again, the first step is to replace f of x with y. Now the next step is to switch x with y. So x is equal to y to the third plus 8. Finally, solve. Isolate the variable y, solve for it. So let's subtract both sides by 8. So we're going to have x minus 8 is equal to y to the third. So how can we solve for y in this example? What should we do next? We need to get rid of this 3. We need to turn it into a 1. So what we can do at this point is take the cube root of both sides. So on the left we have the cube root of x minus 8. On the right, the cube root of y to the third is basically, the 3's will cancel. It's 3 divided by 3, you get 1. So it becomes just y. So therefore the inverse function is the cube root of x minus 8. And so that's the answer. Now let's work on another example. Find the inverse function of the square root of x plus 2 minus 5. Now go ahead and pause the video. Try this problem. So let's start with the same process. Let's replace f of x with y. Next, switch x with y. So the steps are going to be the same. So we're going to have x is equal to the square root of y plus 2 minus 5. Next, solve for y. Try to get it by itself. So let's add 5 to both sides. So we're going to have x plus 5 is equal to the square root of y plus 2. Now we need to get rid of the square root on the right side. So how can we do that? How can we remove that radical? So what we need to do at this point is we need to take the square of both sides of the equation. So on the left side we have x plus 5 squared, which is basically x plus 5 multiplied to itself twice. So it's just x plus 5 times x plus 5. We just have two of them multiplied to each other. On the right, we simply have y plus 2. Now on the left, we need to FOIL. X times x is x squared. And then x times 5, that's 5x. And then we have another 5 times x. And then it's 5 times 5, which is 25. So that's equal to y plus 2. Next, we need to combine like terms. So let me just get rid of some stuff on top. I'm always running out of space. Alright, so here we go. 5x plus 5x, that's 10x. So we got x squared plus 10x plus 25. And that's equal to y plus 2. Now the last thing that we need to do is subtract both sides by 2. So we have x squared plus 10x, and 25 minus 2 is 23. So that's equal to y. So therefore, the inverse function is x squared plus 10x plus 23. So that's the answer. Now, going back to that same problem, I want to show you something else. Now, when we were at this step, where we had x plus 5 squared is equal to y plus 2, if you choose not to FOIL this, what you can do is simply subtract both sides by 2. So if we move this to the other side, we're going to have x plus 5 squared minus 2, which is equal to y. And so you could say that the inverse function is also equal to x plus 5 squared minus 2. So you could leave your answer like this if you want to. But if you want to simplify it, then you could expand this, which we know it's going to be x squared plus 10x plus 25, and then minus 2, and say that the final answer is x squared plus 10x plus 23. So you can write the answer both ways because they're equivalent to each other. So you have to pick and choose which way you prefer. Now let's look at another example. This time we're going to deal with a cube root function. So let's say that f of x is the cube root of x plus 4 minus 2. So go ahead and work on this problem. So let's replace f of x with y, as we've been doing before. And then let's switch x with y. So we have x is equal to the cube root of y plus 4 minus 2. And now let's solve for y. So let's do that by adding 2 to both sides. So we're going to have x plus 2 is equal to the cube root of y plus 4. Now what do we do when we get to this part? How can we get rid of the cube root symbol? In order to get rid of it, you need to take the cube of both sides. So on the left side, you're going to have x plus 2 raised to the third power, and on the right side, it's just y plus 4. These will cancel. And now let's subtract both sides by 4. So we have x plus 2 raised to the third minus 4, which is equal to y. And so we can write the final answer as the inverse function is equal to x plus 2 to the third power minus 4. And so this is the answer. Now, if you want to expand it, you could. It might take some time, but let's say if you're taking a multiple choice test and you don't see this answer, you may need to consider multiplying x plus 2 3 times. And then once you get a polynomial, just subtract it by 4, combine like terms, and that's another way to express the answer as well, but I'm not going to do that in this lesson. Now let's look at one final example. So this one is going to be a little bit harder than the other ones. So let's say that f of x is 3x minus 7 divided by 4x plus 3. So like before, we're going to switch f of x with y. And then we're going to switch x with y. So everywhere you see an x, replace it with a y. Now, what do you think we need to do here? How can we isolate the y variable? What I would recommend doing is to write x as x over 1 and cross multiply. So 1 times 3y minus 7 is 3y minus 7. And then we have x times 4y plus 3. So that's going to be 4y times x, and then 3 times x. Now at this point, what do you think we need to do in order to isolate the y variable? What you should do at this point is you want to move every term that has a y variable on one side of the equation. Everything else that doesn't have that y variable, move it to the other side. So the 4yx, I'm going to move it to the left side. And the negative 7, I want to move it to the right side. So I'm going to have 3y minus 4yx, and that's equal to 3x plus 7. So as you move a term from one side to the other side, that term is going to switch signs. So the 7 was negative on the left side, but it's positive on the right side. The 4yx was positive on the right side, but it's negative on the left side. So now that we have all the y variables on one side of the equation, now we can take out the GCF. We can factor out y. So 3y divided by y is 3. Negative 4yx divided by y is negative 4x. On the right side, we don't need to do anything at this point. So now to get y by itself, let's divide both sides by 3 minus 4x. So y is equal to 3x plus 7 divided by 3 minus 4x. So here's the final answer. The inverse function is 3x plus 7 divided by 3 minus 4x. And so that's the answer.